In 2 Kings 1 verse 10, Elijah answered and said to the captain of the 50, If I be a man of God, then let fire come down from heaven and consume thee and thy 50. And there came down fire from heaven and consumed him and his 50. When God's servant speaks, the wise listen. Deuteronomy 18 verse 22.
Elohim, mighty God, lives in us. On the 9th of January 2022, during the live Sunday service at Elohim Ministry, Wiseman Daniel gave a message of prophecy concerning 5 countries that are daring God. These were his words.
There are 5 countries that are joking with God. There are 5 countries that are joking with God. They are joking with God. But the judgment of God is close to them. I see 5 swords descending upon the roof of these countries. It is better they make U-turn before that sword pierces the roof of their house. It's a parable. How can you see the whole earth playing around, playing it around, throw it that way, throw it this way, throw it that way, throw it this way? Ha! Their case will be like those who dared building the Tower of Babel. You know the tower? Trying to get to where God is. And God proved to them that He is the supreme God by placing language confusion upon them. There are 5 countries that are playing with God, tampering with the nature of God, tampering with the nature of God, trying to make it artificial for selfish, classic, and material reason. 5 countries. Except there's no God. Remember, this world you are playing with, God is the owner. And He said, His anger is coming. The sword is pointing now. I pray it will not pierce the roof of your house before you turn around. Let me speak in parable this time. There are 2 gaps. These 2 gaps has many letters. The first gap, the first letter on this first gap is A. And the last letter of this gap is A. There's another gap. The first letter of this gap is J. The second letter, the last letter of this gap is N. There's another gap. The first letter of this gap is C. And the last letter of this gap is A. There's another gap. The first letter of this gap is F. And the last letter of this gap is E. There's another gap. The first letter of this gap is R. And the last letter of this gap is A. He who has wisdom should decode. And these 5 gaps are playing with God's intelligence. And God says, it is time to act. You and I will see it happen.
When God's servant speaks, the wise listen. Deuteronomy 18 verse 22.
Обстоятельства требуют от нас решительных и незамедлительных действий. Народные республики Донбасса обратились к России с просьбой о помощи. В связи с этим
And I welcome the decision of some members of this Council to meet as soon as possible to consider the necessary decision that would condemn the aggression that you launch on my people. There is no purgatory for war criminals. They go straight to hell, Ambassador.
Later today, we will present a package of massive and targeted sanctions to European leaders for approval. With this package, we will target strategic sectors of the Russian economy by blocking their access to technologies and markets that are key for Russia.
There's another gap. The first letter of this gap is R. And the last letter of this gap is A.
Let's just bring you again that breaking news from a few minutes ago, and that is that the Kremlin has said that Vladimir Putin has called Belarus's President Lukashenko to organise talks, talks between a delegation from Russia and one from Ukraine in the Belarusian capital, Minsk. This is the very latest lines that we're getting from there. Of course, earlier on we had the Kremlin spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, saying that Russia is prepared for talks with Ukraine. He talked talking about the President Zelensky declaring his readiness to discuss Ukraine's neutral status. We have, of course, been watching out for anything from Vladimir Putin, and, well, he demanded that the Ukrainian army depose the government during a televised address to members of the Russian Permanent Security Council. He called them drug-addled neo-Nazis. Let's take a listen.
It is quite clear that all this is happening on the recommendations of foreign consultants, first and foremost American consultants. Once again, I appeal to the Ukrainian armed forces. Do not allow the neo-Nazis and Benderites to use your children, your wives and old people as human shields. Take power into your own hands. Like that, it will be easier for us to come to an agreement than with that gang of druggies and neo-Nazis who have seized Kiev and who are taking the entire Ukrainian people hostage. I would also like to pay the highest tribute to the Russian soldiers and officers. They are acting courageously, professionally and heroically in fulfilling their military duty, successfully carrying out the very important mission of ensuring the security of our people and country.
Well, let's bring you some more lines that we are getting, this time from US defense officials who are feeding information. And they are saying that the US has so far observed more than 200 total missile launches so far from Russia. That's according to a US defense official. They say that some missile launches have impacted civilian residential areas, which tallies with some of the reports that we're getting out of Ukraine that some residential areas have been impacted by missile attacks. They also go on to say that the Russians seem in general to have lost momentum and the advance towards Kiev is going slower than Russia anticipated. Again, that tallies with what we have been hearing coming out of the area, that the Russians have in general lost a little bit of momentum in their attack of Ukraine and the way they've moved forward. Well, Russia's invasion of Ukraine is, of course, having a direct impact on the world of sport. In fact, in motor racing, Formula One has cancelled this year's Grand Prix in Russia, saying it's impossible to hold the race under current circumstances. And in football, the Champions League final has been switched from St. Petersburg to Paris.
There's another gap. The first letter of this gap is R. And the last letter of this gap is A.
Russia has demanded legally binding agreements to announce further NATO enlargement and to remove troops and infrastructure from allies that joined after 1997. We are facing a new normal in European security, where Russia openly contests the European security order and uses force to pursue its objectives.
Fighting is now happening in Kiev. On the second day of the Russian invasion, Ukraine's capital is being attacked on the ground. We have live pictures for you this morning as we begin this Friday in Kiev. Special coverage for you again all morning long. Ukraine's defense ministry urging Ukrainians to prepare for a desperate defense, telling them on social media to make Molotov cocktails. An official with Ukraine's Interior Ministry says Russian tanks and other armored vehicles are moving on the capital now from both the northeast and the northwest. Associated Press reports gunfire is being heard in neighborhoods around the government buildings. Other cities are also coming under attack. We'll hear about that from our Margaret Evans in just a moment, live in the capital. But first, the latest video this morning. This is video showing Russian military vehicles moving down a road in a northern part of the Ukrainian capital. Now you can see this is taken through a window. One of the vehicles moves to cut off traffic. It's short, so let's repeat it for you. This is video being widely shared on social media. We're taking it from an official account. BBC News is confirming the location, and other social media posts are sharing unconfirmed video of Russian forces in other parts of Kiev. The attack following another night of airstrikes for people in the city. This is video from Ukraine's state emergency service showing an apartment building on fire. Ukraine is accusing Russia of deliberately targeting civilians, saying at least 33 civilian sites have been hit. In an address earlier this morning, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky appears to single out the United States in a call for countries to do more to stop Russia.
This morning, we are defending our country alone. Just like yesterday, the most powerful country in the world looked on from a distance. Russia was hit with sanctions yesterday, but these are not enough to get these foreign troops off our soil. Only through solidarity and determination can this be achieved.
The Ukrainian president, as he spoke to the people of his nation. Now, there is our Margaret Evans, who leads our CBC News team in Kiev. She is in her hotel room overlooking the downtown. And Margaret, if we would, in terms of what is happening right now, I was saying Russian forces are reported just kilometers from the National Parliament and from where you are. What is the latest this Friday?
Well, Heather, we've heard a couple of explosions in the distance, but when that's not happening or when the air raid sirens are going and you listen, this city is silent. Earlier, we did have kind of a constant sounding of those air raid warnings. People spent the night in shelters, if they had them, basements, garages. We've talked about the metro stations and people going down there. There's a real sense of confusion and not knowing what's going to happen. The other thing that's happening that's a little bit different is you're starting to see shops actually boarding themselves up. Our hotel, for example, is boarding the glass doors at the front, and that is people preparing, fearful that Russian troops may indeed soon be in the very heart of the capital. So that's the latest on the ground. We're a little bit hemmed in here, the view from my hotel room window.
Is that we are there to protect and defend all allies. NATO is the strongest military alliance in the world. And make no mistake, we are there to protect and defend all allies and every inch of NATO territory. And we convey that message again and again, both in words but also in deeds. And that's the way to prevent war, that's the way to prevent an attack, to preserve peace, and we have done so for more than 70 years, and we will continue to do it, also in the light of the attack on Ukraine.
Thank you very much. This concludes this press conference.
Viewers all over the world, you can see for yourself that what is happening around the world now is just a smoke in relation to what Wiseman Daniel spoke about in his message of prophecy. The real flame is on the way. Remember that God's wrath can only come upon a nation that dares God by tampering with God's nature. You can see that God's nature is being tampered with. You can see that innocent people are paying for what they know nothing about. This will indeed bring the anger of God. One of the 5 countries has started to dare God. Let us pray fervently so that the remaining 4 countries would not join in destroying the nature of God. and consequently share from the wrath of God that is coming. Let us come together in prayer to see how we can stop this smoke that is on now. Joining in the current battle will destroy more of God's nature, and this will eventually bring the very flame that God is waiting for to strike these 5 countries with his wrath. He who has ears, let him hear the voice of God and withdraw from unnecessary war and allow peace to reign. God cannot afford to keep quiet while his natures are being destroyed. According to Wiseman Daniel, this prophecy has many branches. Let us watch and see how these branches would begin to appear one after the other.
There are 2 gaps. These 2 gaps has many letters. The first gap, the first letter on this first gap is A. And the last letter of this gap is A. There's another gap. The first letter of this gap is J. The second letter, the last letter of this gap is N. There's another gap. The first letter of this gap is C. And the last letter of this gap is A. There's another gap. The first letter of this gap is F. And the last letter of this gap is E. There's another gap. The first letter of this gap is R. And the last letter of this gap is A. He who has wisdom should decode.
We are praying for peace and unity around the whole world. This earth belongs to God, and no country can tamper with God's nature and go free. Elohim, mighty God lives in us. John 14:23.
Beware of fraudsters. Viewers all over the world, it has come to our attention that some fraudsters are going around requesting for funds from people who are too desperate and impatient to follow the right procedure in order to locate the right channel or the right source. These fraudsters parade themselves as representatives of Elohim Ministry, Wiseman Daniel Ministry, or Wiseman Daniel himself. They are fake. They are fraudsters. Please do not fall for their tricks and tactics. Below are some of the fake YouTube channels and social media handles created by these fraudsters in order to deceive you, our viewers. These are our official social media accounts and contact details. Our official YouTube channel is www.youtube.com/c/Wiseman Daniel Ministries. Our official Instagram handle is Wiseman_Daniel Ministries. Congratulations, viewers all over the world. We are now on Facebook and on Twitter. Our official Facebook handle is facebook.com/Wiseman Daniel Official. Our official Twitter handle is twitter.com/WMD Ministries. Our TikTok handle is @Wiseman Daniel Ministries. Our official website addresses are www.elohimonline.org. and www.christstandard.tv. Our official email addresses are info@elohimonline.org and info@christstandard.tv. These are our contact details, and they are all available on WhatsApp. Our prayer request line is +234 902 147 0247. Our testimony line is +234 901 511 3002. Our inquiry lines are +234 704 094 5007 and +234 904 882 4874. Our partnership lines are +234 703 144 8611 and +234 906 141 4886. And do remember, all of these numbers are available on WhatsApp. Viewers all over the world, note that any other website addresses, social media handles, or contact details, apart from the ones we have listed above, are not from Elohim Ministry, Wiseman Daniel Ministry, nor from Wiseman Daniel himself. God bless you. Elohim, God lives in us. John 14, verse 23.